the Security Dialogue.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhum. This is yet another edition of the Security Dialogue on Muslim Television, Ahmadiyya International. Now, there's a group of people in our society sometimes we shudder to push them behind the scenes. And I mean, there are a lot of misconceptions, especially when it comes to Islam, that we do not give our women the needed empowerment to be at the forefront. We want to see whether that misconception is either true or not. But on the Security Dialogue, on this very episode, we're going to have two wonderful women who are going to share with us issues of women contribution when it comes to peace and security. Because in Africa, women play very important roles as custodians of culture, nurturers and agents for creating stability in the lives of their families, promote reconciliation and peace even under very difficult, traumatic situations. Yet, violence has had disproportionate effect on their lives, often as targets of extreme forms of violence in our daily lives. On the Security Dialogue today, we have two very important women to share with us their experiences in the field of conflict, peace and security, gender issues. And first on the list is Ms. Caroline Kisato, who is a Kenyan and is currently the Network and Partner Relations Coordinator at the West Africa Center for Peace Studies, works in Ghana here. She has over 10 years experience in implementing and overseeing change in non-for-profit sector, basically about NGOs. He is someone who has that experience also in peace building and conflict management, gender mainstreaming, security, and resource mobilization, and has extensive experience liaising with partners. Welcome to the Security Dialogue on Muslim Television Ahmadiyya International.
Thank you.
Yeah, next to my immediate left is Ms. Ruth Adjoa Frimpong, who is an administrative assistant at the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center. She holds a master's degree in conflict, peace, and security from the same institution. He read bachelor's degree in political science with geography and resource development from the University of Ghana. Her research interests or areas include gender and peace building, peace support operations, security sector reforms, and police governance. You are welcome to the studios of MT International.
Thank you very much.
Yes, so in a short while, we're going to have a discussion around the topic. Today's topic, we are looking at women and peace building in Africa. And that is why we've brought these two wonderful women here to share with us. And I said that oftentimes women are more or less like target of extreme forms of violence. Women in Africa experience the full impact when it comes to issues of violent conflict in the regions as civilians and as combatants as well, because somehow, some way, indirectly or directly, they are involved in some of this thing. But yet still, I mean, in many of the things that we do, the women representation is very low. For instance, if you look at various negotiations that have moved around, I mean, within the international community, the representation by women is very insignificant. Like you have them like 10%, and when it comes to signing accords, you have like 3% women pending their signature to such. So it tells you that largely women are not that much involved in issues of peace building in our continent. What is your reaction to that?
Thank you very much. I wouldn't say that women are not involved in peace building. It's only that they do not highlight the work that they do, because most women work in the background, they work behind the scenes, they work with the communities. They're the ones who build the peace right at the grassroots level. So when people go at the top level, that is peacemaking. Okay. Peace building and peacemaking are very different. Okay. So it's those who are learned, educated, who speak at the top level, While those who are at the grassroots level, because of low literacy level, they're not given that opportunity to come and speak.
Okay.
And as noted, as I observed when working in the Kenyan community, there are certain communities, especially the pastoralist communities and Muslim communities, unfortunately, as you rightly mentioned, the women tend to sit behind whilst the men do the talking.
Okay.
So women are told, if you have any questions, please ask your husband at home. So sometimes I never used to understand when I'm meant to facilitate a meeting and hear this saying, if you're a woman, you sit behind. And so we had to do a lot of negotiations to try and change the thinking so that women can also speak at the table.
Okay, I mean, Ms. Ruth, I mean, you, I know you have done a lot of research championing the cause of women when you take, for instance, the UN Security Council Resolution 1325, right? Yes, I mean, that talks about women even being involved in issues of security, as in maybe in the military, their involvement in peace operations and all of that. Would you agree to the fact that women are that limited when it comes to peace building in Africa?
I think this is an age-long discussion. Okay. When you look at the underrepresentation and exclusion of women from the political, economic, and social scenes from as back as probably the 1800s, you will see that women have been excluded. When it comes to the political setting, women have been disenfranchised for long. Okay. People had to work their way through, maybe through demonstrations, through policy and dialogue for women to have the right to vote. When you come to the economic setting, you see how women are not given the opportunity to hold certain economic capacities, such as commerce and trade. And when you come to the social setting from our societies, you see how women are relegated to the background to deal with soft issues such as raising the child and keeping the home, while men are assigned to hardcore issues such as war, peace, governance and allocation of resources. So I think this has got to do with our patriarchal norms and structural fault lines that have been present over the years. So bridging the gap, this generational gap, won't be a 1 day or 10-year affair. I think it's a gradual process. So the exclusion of women from the peace talks has got to do with something that has been historical over the years. Yeah,
and to add to that, I remember in one of the researches that I did, and it talks about the avenues to resolve peace. For instance, when you go to Liberia, they have what we call the Palaver Hat. I mean, it's like a system. In Ghana here, they call it Janetoa. It's like I run to you to seek for that consultation towards peace building and all of that. And even in that particular settings, still, I mean, the woman will have an issue, but the woman cannot represent herself. That issue has to be channeled through either an uncle within the family and all of that. For me, I find it very worrying because I feel that women contribution is that massive and very important. What do you think should be done, or where is the missing link to all of this? I want to take it from you.
I look at it in terms of how we are structured, especially the African community. We are a very patriarchal society. So women were pushed out of the scene. It's the men who lead, the women watch from behind. You're told, go take care of the children, take care of the family. So in that aspect, women become voiceless.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we also have issues of literacy. Many women never got opportunities to go to school. If you had boy children, the boy child was given priority, the girl child was left out. And it's still happening in communities to date. That's still ongoing. If you go to Ethiopia, you'll find that in Kenya, you'll find it in several places.
Is it that as a people, we've not come to understand that precious role that women play? Because for me, if you look at even some sectors that you have women, take it like corruption, hardly will you on the stage find women who have been prosecuted, even for example, for corrupt practices, because it's like they have this inner feeling of protecting what they have. And so is it that as a people we have not come to appreciate that kind of contribution that women make in our society?
I think it's more of perceptions and attitudes. When you live in a society that is so manly oriented, the women will always be left out. And it's still a struggle for many men to accept women even in leadership positions. They feel you're a threat. Okay. And so it's, I think, something that has to be worked out with time.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll come back to that for us to see how we can work that out. But I want to take it from Ms. Ruth. Of course, we can't say that women have not done anything in terms of peace building in Africa and all of that. I'm sure you will want to share with us some of the examples, but I want to know specifically what are some of the efforts that have been achieved as far as women involvement in peace building in Africa is concerned, through representation and, I mean, either direct or indirect.
Okay. So when we look at conflict societies in the past, we see Rwanda, Liberia, we see Sierra Leone. We've seen how women have been at the front of peace talks in trying to restructure society from the grassroots level. Okay. You may not see them at probably at the top, okay, at the peace tables, okay, and signing peace agreements and
but don't you think that then it means that you, the women, are also not putting up yourself, at the forefront?
Well, there's one thing to appoint someone to serve in a capacity, and there's another thing to give the person room to operate. Okay. So probably people have been appointed to serve as maybe gender advisors, okay, and focal persons, but then the necessary structures to give them room to operate independently has not been created. Okay. So we see how women have fostered peace in these post-conflict societies, and also we've seen women in peace building networks in Africa, such as the Mano River Women in Peace Networks. Okay. We've also seen quite recently, it's called the Women's Situation Room. It has been spearheaded in countries such as Kenya, Uganda, Nigeria, I think Liberia, and currently is being replicated in the 10 regions in Ghana. I think with the introduction of the new 6 regions, probably will be replicated further by the Women's Situation Room.
Wow, that's wonderful.
Yes, please.
That's wonderful. But how radically can our women be, or have they been towards peace building in Africa?
Well, I think
I'm asking this question because, we have a certain cherished nature for women that sometimes they can go extreme to do certain things just to ensure, because of the impact they receive when it comes to conflict and all of that. What are some of these things, radical things that they've done?
Yeah, so look at the Liberia issue, like how peace was fostered in Liberia. Okay. You see when Charles Taylor came to Ghana, you see how the women had hijacked the venue which the peace talk was going on, trying to say no peace, and then they wouldn't allow their president to go back. So you see how women have been radical in this sense. They lined up the streets all the way from the marketplaces, sat there for days, trying to hit the nail on the head that peace is needed in societies.
Wow, yeah. Wonderful, yes, wonderful. Ms. Kisato, with your international experience, and recently, I know you also had a program even at Pentecost University where you talked about youth as agents of peace, specifically on the role that, the girl child and then women have to play. What will be your insight as far as women are concerned in fighting for that position in order to contribute, so that their contribution can be real? What are they supposed to do?
I think one is educate the girl child. Once you start, because education gives you the mobility to speak in any forum. Once you know the facts, you have the terminologies, you're able to discuss and challenge people on the table. Okay. But if you are lowly educated, you also feel intimidated. Okay. So now we also need to look at issues of raising the girl child in a way that she feels appreciated from an early age. So we need to build her self-esteem. Many of them, because of what their parents have experienced, so they learn. It's environmental. You learn from your environment, so they are taught to stay behind. So now we need to get that out. The male child also has to be engaged. We must engage both male and female, because if you develop the girl child and leave out the boy child, now we create another problem in the society. So when you're building one, build the other. Let them understand each other and engage at the same table.
Thank you very much. Ms. Ruth, let me pick this from you. I spoke about impact. What has been the impact of conflict on women?
For the impact, we could take it from the psychological, probably to the economic, and probably to the physical. We've seen how women who have suffered SGBV, that's the sexual and gender-based violence, on conflict scenes, have been subjected to trauma. You know, there's post-trauma like syndrome or disease that women have to endure. You know, some of these post-conflict settings do not have the technical experts, such as maybe psychologists to train or counsel these women through this traumatic events they have gone through, and also physically, the loss of lives, and maybe the fact that they can become handicapped.
Okay.
Exactly, and also
I mean, some of them are also sort of raped and
exactly. All. So all boils down to the trauma. So if you know that women suffer SGBV, and you do not put in place the technical aspect, probably to do the counseling and trying to incorporate them back to society, I think that is where the problem is.
Yeah. Madam Ms. Kisato, I want to go back to the United Nations Security Council Resolution 1325 of the involvement, specifically on the involvement of women when it comes to peace operations. Would you say that has helped, or have you done enough to that?
When we look at the UN, remember UN comprises of member states.
Okay.
So there are aspects that the UN may not have control in a country because of sovereignty.
Okay.
But as far as I'm concerned, because 1325 was put in place, adopted in 2000. Okay. So that is 20 to 21 years ago. Okay. A lot has been happening. There's a lot of gender mainstreaming, gender equality. They're pushing for those policies. And then we have national action plans that many countries have now formulated. So can
you share with us what is happening in Kenya, for instance?
Well, for Kenya, we have a gender equality department that has been established in the government. So gender is being mainstreamed in most departments. So now we get to see more women holding positions, more women speaking on roundtables, more women having businesses. So there's a lot that is happening behind the scenes. Okay. Yes.
What is your take on that?
You know,
I mean, you are with Kofi Annan, and Kofi Annan has been training, a lot of people in terms of peace support operations and all of that. Prior to their deployment and all of that. Technically, do you think that we've done enough? Are we doing enough?
For policy formulation, I think a number of policies have been formulated, a number of resolutions have been adopted. Yeah. So what's left is the political will and commitment to implement these adoptions, resolutions, and policies. Because the same passion that fueled the formulation of these resolutions and the policies, that same passion should be channeled in implementing them.
But they'll go and sit around the table and draft long tales of them, and then they will done.
When we go back home, we all forget about.
What do you think is the problem?
I think
or the challenge?
The issue of monitoring and evaluation.
Okay.
So monitoring and evaluation helps bridge the gap between policy and practice.
Okay.
So then to hit the whip on their backs and say, what are you doing with these indicators you have outlined?
Don't you think that the women group are supposed to take this up? Because I'm just thinking about the fact that the impact that conflict has on women. You understand? So if they go sit around the table, probably they go to the annual UN General Assembly meeting and all of that. At the end of the day, nothing is happening. And then we come back home and we come and you cook for us to eat, you serve us fine. And you are not asking us to, don't you think that you have certain role to really ensure that these things are?
Well, we do have a role. But as I was saying, it's how freely we are allowed to operate.
Okay.
Okay, so we know our position, we know what we are supposed to do, we know our stipulated mandates, but are you giving us a room to operate? Are you giving us a room to let our voices be heard? Because I think someone shared a case where someone is supposed to be a gender focal person in an institution, and is supposed to make sure that all the sexual harassment policies, all the policies that concern women are adhered to. But then again, when it comes to issues of attending programs, discussion, policy dialogues, and you say, don't go. So you've appointed me, but it's like a white elephant. I'm just there, but I'm not championing the cause.
So at that point, more or less, like they feel like marginalized, right? Share with us, because I'm sure our viewers who are predominantly maybe because it's gender issue, they will want to understand how this sort of marginalization has really affected maybe community progress, national progress, and even international progress.
Now, the thing that concerns me is the people who go sit to write these policies. Majority are men. So they think like men, not like women. Then you expect to come and implement these thoughts that you had up there, these imaginary things. You come back to the grassroots. You didn't involve the woman in the process. So how is she going to translate what you are thinking into what is happening on the ground? So now that's where we cause a mismatch. Yeah, so now the woman can't speak because she doesn't even understand your language. It's too technical. So now when you complicate things with big words, what are they supposed to be doing at the grassroots level? Now we need to simplify the language so that they also understand and they contribute to their thinking. Yes.
Exactly. I think it's a fantastic point. And viewers out there, if you just join us, we are talking about women and peace building in Africa. I mean, and they play that very important role to our democratic governance in Africa. And here in the studio, I have Miss Caroline Kisato, who is a Kenyan, currently in Ghana. He's somebody who has a lot of experiences when it comes to security, gender mainstreaming, and all of that. And also, I have Miss Ruth Frimpong, who is with the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center. Is an administrative staff there, and we are trying to understand the women's role in building peace in Africa, because they suffer most on that. Because we do not have much time on our hands. I mean, going forward, and I want to pick your reactions on going forward. When you consider the UN, you consider the AU and other regional organizations and member states, what should we do to promote that inclusion of women when it comes to peace building and governance architecture in Africa?
One thing I've seen, like with the UN, there is a body formed called FemWise. It's a network. Let me see what the exact terminology is of that network. It has a long name.
Okay.
Yeah, so FemWise is one body that they brought women into it. They partner with the panel of the wise. Okay. So now they're able to negotiate from that because they deal with mediation and negotiation. Okay. So that is one good thing that Africa as a region is doing. Okay. From international level, I know there are very many bodies that are there. And because of the issue of gender mainstreaming, a lot of it is being now pushed into organizations. And one of the, especially if you're looking for funding, if you're in a CSO, a civil society organization, they want to see what is the gender representation. How many women are in the board? There is more focus on women being in boards. Okay. Yes, so those are part of the things that are ongoing, which are an excellent move.
Okay, yeah. I mean, any experience from where you see?
So currently the Kofi Annan has the Women, Peace and Security Institute, so that's WIPSI. Okay. So WIPSI is in charge of women in championing the women peace and security agenda. Okay. So number of programs, number of partnership and dialogues.
But are you really involving the grassroots in some? Because Ms. Kisato, I'm sure you will agree with me that in as much as we talk about the fact that when men sit around the table, women are not that represented. I'm sure when it comes to the women level, in terms of leadership, how is your center involving the grassroots? So the ordinary woman who is watching us, who sells at Makola, who sells probably in a market in Kenya, who is watching us, because I mean MTA is international. The network is international. They will want to understand how we are involving these grassroots people for them to appreciate the terminologies that Ms. Caroline shared with us.
Okay, so just a couple of months ago, the WIPC, in collaboration with the center, organized a stakeholder meeting for women in grassroots levels.
Okay.
So I think they wanted to resound the fact that women are also involved in issues of violent extremism, and so issues of peace and security in general. So through sensitization and awareness creation, I think the Women Peace and Security Institute of Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center is able to reach out to these women. So when you go back home, at their local levels, they're able to reach out to these women.
But you spoke about monitoring and evaluation. How is the center equally monitoring some of this, so that probably they know that the work that is being done is getting the impact that it has to? Okay,
the center has a whole unit for monitoring and evaluation. Okay, so when we organize training courses, both mobile and in-house, we're able to track the impact of these courses on women out there, or people we're able to reach out to. So we have some indicators they have set out that would guide the monitoring evaluation. So with that, they're able to assess whether they have been able to bridge the gap, what are the loopholes, what they should carry forward.
And what has been some of the feedback, from these local women, the market women? What has been some of the feedbacks?
I think gradually we are gaining ground because it's like snowballing. I let you know that I came for a course here. I let you know, oh, you could also apply for this course. You also reach out to this person. So I think gradually.
So is that open that other people can come and assess this thing?
Exactly.
Okay, that's fantastic there. You are doing a great job there.
Thank you very much.
Kudos to you. Ms. Kisato, share with us, when I'm talking about, you see, because of your international experience, I want to draw on that and then understand some of these measures, for instance, that are being put in place to ensure that we get our women involved. What are some of the experiences, maybe in Kenya or any other parts that you have been?
I recently just came from Australia. I was doing a master's in international development. And so I was able to learn a lot from people from other nationalities, especially from Asia. They also have conflicts. And if you look at the Indian community, they're very closely related to their culture. It sounds more or less like Africans, because the Indian women tend to be told to stay in the kitchen. It's the men who are at the front.
Fantastic.
Yeah, but now they've put mechanisms in place whereby now women are voicing out, engaging in many activities, coming up with organizations, talking in policy issues. So the education plays the biggest role. Yeah, because now for the girl child, there's a lot of push for educating the girl child.
So in just about 10 seconds, what will you tell our women out there?
Women out there,
the whole of society.
Please do not fear. Come out, get on the table, go to school, learn. It's open. You're free to get new knowledge and also speak out.
All right, Ms. Ruth, I want to take your final words.
I think mine is from international, maybe regional, the national and local. So she didn't see women's involvement in peace and security issues as just a box ticking process to say we have achieved this, so then we are done. So inclusion should be made meaningful. If you are saying women should participate, it should be geared towards meaningful involvement. Give them the room to operate, give them the room to make the changes they desire. And also women should also eschew the misconception that they are always the victim in conflict. Probably this is so, but also they can also be agents for change and agents for peace in their societies.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And to top it up, like we've been doing, this is a very pricking and a very insightful, so endearing quotation from the Holy Quran once again. And this is coming from Quran chapter 4, verse 20. Quran chapter 4, verse 20. And some portions read, and consult with them in kindness. And here we are talking about women. And if you dislike them, it may be that you dislike a thing wherein Allah has placed much good. So we need to see good in our women. We need to involve them. We need to support them. We need to encourage them and bring them to the table, because their involvement is cardinal to the peace that we sought to achieve. And even some of the literatures that we have read and practices of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there are times that when he wants to make, very cogent decision, he consults with the wives on leadership, on socioeconomic issues. So that alone tells you how important our women are in our society. Today we have looked at women and peace building. We know that we are not able to exhaust the topic. We're going to have a very concluding part in the coming weeks. But on today, this has been the Security Dialogue on Muslim Television, Ahmadiyya International, where we take a look at women and peace building in Africa. But don't forget, we always have something from our general public out there. And so we equally listen to our women, especially this time, to let them, or for us to understand what they also think about the topic that we discuss today. And so stay tuned and always be here. Very soon we'll also be bringing you safety tips and security tips as part of the general program that we're going to have, so that you can be on the lookout each time you go out, each time you come in, when you are in your homes, the things that you are supposed to do to prevent yourself from issues of injury, issues of security, in order to protect yourself from harm's way. And so until we come your way again, same time, this has been your host, or I am your host, Sadiq Educhum, on the Security Dialogue on Muslim Television Ahmadiyya International. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.